All right. It is story time. And I was kind of shifting gears as we were getting to know Douglas before the show. And I thought this would be a fun one to talk about. Dads, tell me a story of your first fandom.
My first fandom?
Yeah, like what got you into whatever you're into now?
Oh,
or
what
like what inspired your book?
Well, I got to say, I'm a child of the 80s, and I don't remember it because I was only 18 months old, but officially my first movie was Star Wars: A New Hope. My dad took me in there and he said I did okay for the first half, and then I got fussy. You only use that word for babies, word fussy. But
I use it for Kurt quite often.
It does it can be reused later. But I do remember Empire Strikes Back. So I was about 4 years old, and I remember being blown away by the AT-ATs, because these giant elephantine machines, just like. And there's this one scene, even to this day, when I watch it in Empire, I just go, "Oh God, I love that scene." It's the scene where it's a long shot, and you see the three of them, and they're like right up on top of the rebels, and the rebels are trying to escape, and two of them are like looking in the same direction, and I was like, "Oh my God, that is horrifying." It never left my head, and I got sucked into Star Wars like that, like a lot of guys in my generation, like you get sucked into it. So I would say that was my first fandom, and drafting off that was Superman from 1978. Yeah. Huge Superman fan. And of course, that got me into the John Williams soundtrack and all that. So I'm a big soundtrack guy as well.
So all over the internet today is the James Gunn teaser trailer where he does it. They use a synth version of the John Williams score over the teaser 100%. Of the new Superman movie. So what do you, it sounds like you're excited. What are you thinking about the new Superman movie?
So James Gunn, I wasn't really sure about this whole rebuild of the DC world. Marvel really hit it out of the park, I would say, from Iron Man to Endgame. Like that's incredible. In terms of cinematic achievement to be able to cobble this together with 23 films, and really most of the films are really good. And I even think they mostly stuck the landing on Endgame. It's not perfect, but I felt like it was satisfying, like they delivered on something. After Endgame, it's been really choppy waters. But but so when James Gunn said he was going to start a DC, I was like, oh no, I just don't know about the timing. I don't know if is he the right guy, because he's more like comedic. He did really good with Guardians of the Galaxy. Right. So I watched the trailer today, and I got to say I'm mostly happy about it. It's very evident that the filmmaker wants us to know that he's sticking to the main beats of Superman. He's like, there's the Fortress of Solitude, there's Daily Planet, there's Clark Kent in disguise, he's nerdy, there's Lois Lane, the hot, journalist who works with him in a modern, there's the old rural house that he's at with his parents there. The snow, there's a lot of those beats that are very familiar for Superman. And so I was like, they're really driving that point home, that this is going to be a familiar Superman, brought into the modern world. And I think Lex Luthor looked pretty good in it. Looks like there's going to be a stable of villains in this, possibly. And the big gamble, Superdog.
Crypto was there.
Crypto's in it. I think that's either going to be a whole grand slam or something that doesn't fit. So I don't know.
Fandom Kid says, my first fandom is He-Man. Girls talk about Barbie giving unrealistic expectations for women's bodies, but we had He-Man.
We all fell so short.
He-Man was like 4'3" and buff as buff could get,
and his waist was impeccably small for those muscles, for that muscle frame.
What about you, Joe? What was when you were
one of my first fandoms that I got super into, I got super into, not necessarily something that my parents had introduced me to, has got to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Absolutely loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Had a bunch of the toys, Fantastic. Whenever I hear the 80s theme song come on, I'm loving it, getting real nostalgic over it. As an adult, I've purchased several of the seasons. I don't know if we have all of them, but most of the seasons on DVD. And so we've watched it all the way through, at least the ones that we've got with my boys. I'll have to double check to see if we have them all. I know we have 2 or 3 seasons, but I don't know how many seasons there are. But yeah, no, I've watched it with my boys, and it's also on, I think it's on Paramount Plus, and so we've watched some of the other, some of the newer stuff on there. Yeah. So we've watched a bunch of the newer stuff on there as well, like the Mutants of Mayhem. We've watched with the boys, but even beyond the cartoons, like those, the original movies, those first
suits?
couple, all of that with practical effects and everything. It's, in my opinion, it still holds up. Like, those practical effects were done really well, and I still enjoy it. Kind of like how Jurassic Park, because they heavily used practical effects and did such a good job with it, that holds up so much better than some of the older movies with early CGI. There's Star Wars that's been remastered 27 different times.
Well, and it seems like they're relearning that lesson. It seems like they're going back to practical effects because they've overused CGI to such an extent that there's no spectacle to it anymore. So it seems like they are relearning it,
That's one of the only, there was a few things I liked about the last 3 Star Wars that came out, but the biggest one was the practical effects of the X-Wings coming down and the water shooting out like it absolutely should. And that was brilliant. But Joe, what did you think about the newest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie that came out?
That's the Mutants of Mayhem or whatever.
Is that what that one was called?
I think so. The one that
with the kids, Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Something like that.
Where they're actual teenagers instead of instead of where most of them portray them where they come across more as young adults, even though they say they're teenagers. But they actually had them as teenagers. I thought it came across really well. Art style wise, I've heard a lot of people compare it to the Spider-Verse films. I was worried about a lot of different things, but watching it came together really well, other than the characterization of April. There were a couple of different things about April that I didn't care for.
Okay.
But the way they did it wasn't too bad, and it did allow her a lot more character growth than you've seen in other versions of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, because I mean, if you think about it critically, she doesn't have like any character growth in any of the other mediums. As much as I love her character, her character doesn't change. She's a very static character.
I felt it suited the reboot feel, with them all being in high school and all being teenager and also modern with social media and stuff. It was all right.
It's a series, right, with episodes.
This one was just a movie.
Oh, okay. I think I watched the first half with my youngest son, and he liked it. I thought the animation was actually pretty good. And I did like that they were genuine teenagers. I felt like I was watching these quippy kids, high school level kids that are also crime fighters, and I think that's really appealing to a young audience. I thought
they wanted to fight crime in a way that a teenager wants to be a hero, right? That kind of rose-colored glasses, and then when the real fighting starts, like, oh crap, and they mess up a lot. Yeah, it was good.
That's great too. The reality of it.
Yep.
Going back to the 90s. Man, that's all I ever wanted was to see the Turtles in concert when they did that whole rock tour thing with the guys in suits and everything. I always thought that'd be awesome. I had a cassette tape. I had all the Pizza Hut memorabilia, whatever, but I never got to see them.
Joseph, do you remember that song? It was like a song in the TURTLE power. You remember that song?
Yeah.
Ninja Turtle song?
Yep.
Yeah, after school, it was G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Transformers. Those were like the big three.
I would have to say I was thinking about it while you guys were talking, and of course I did get into Star Wars early on, but I think I was a little bit older when my dad started showing me that, and never went to the theater as a kid to see it. That just wasn't a thing for me. My dad did. Like, he saw all three of them opening nights and whatnot, but they just didn't take me. I was left with the babysitter, so I saw it later. Then I was thinking maybe G.I. Joe, because it really was a big fandom of mine, but if I really think about it, Sesame Street, man, and the Muppet Show, hand in hand. Like, my dad would, yes, the Jim Henson, the Muppet. It was just we watched everything they had, and it took me being an adult to realize the Muppet Show was an adult show.
Yeah.
But at the time, they were running reruns at like 7 in the morning, so my dad would get up for work and get me up for school, and Mom eating cereal, we're watching the Muppet Show in reruns. Or maybe he videotaped them. I don't know. But we're watching it together, and I'm watching Paul Simon and Steve Martin and all these people, and I didn't care. I just liked how the Muppets did their things. And then later on in the day, I'd see Sesame Street when it come on this regular time, and yeah, that was, and still is, probably one of my biggest fandoms. Well, as you can see, let me do this, because I don't know if I got to show you this.
Great answer.
Douglas. Let's say, as you can see, I got 4 foot tall Cookie Monster back over here. So,
wow, C is for cookie.
It is, and I love when in the early 2000s when Brian Posehn did a cover of C is for Cookie as a metal song. It was hilarious. It was great. Oh man, such good stuff.
I just watched. We did a live stream watch party, and I never seen this movie, and I don't know how I missed it, to be honest. The Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw it and I was like, oh, the Muppets. They're like, trust us. You're going to love it. And I did. I became an instant fan. I brought it. I came home and I was like, we're going to watch this movie tonight, kids. They loved it. So now it's instantly part of the December cycle now.
it holds up so well, because I did the same thing with my kids. You never know, right? And you're introducing stuff to your kids, like, well, when I was a kid, this was great, but what are they going to? What about Muppet Treasure Island?
I haven't seen that yet either.
That's a good one.
And to me, it's
Tim
one of the
Curry.
best
I mean, Tim Curry's good in everything that he does, pretty much.
Tim
but
Curry
yeah.
All right, that earned an asterisk.
Not everything they did was great. There's a Christmas special they did that TikTok reminded me of, with Robert Downey Jr. in it during his cocaine days, and it was, his acting choices were very cocaine fueled, I will say. And it's like, yeah, I don't remember that one as a kid. So not all of them hold up.
Oh, that's hysterical.
So much fun. Good story.